The most joyful smiles can mask the darkest secrets. And occasionally, on live TV, a glance, a pause, or a hushed comment can totally dismantle that front. Envision a person you see every day, whose laughter is so recognizable, suddenly revealing something so personal, so honest, that it makes you cry. Just like this happened when Ripa revealed her deepest, darkest secret to her husband Mark Consuelos in a live broadcast, which caused him to openly cry. For millions, it was a shocking moment. At that very moment, our hearts raced as we leaned in closer, wondering what truth she had clung to for so long and whether it was driven by love, grief, or healing. In this video, we will go over everything from the build-up to the big reveal to the emotional aftermath of that incredible program. Behind the scenes, we'll explore Kelly and Mark's private lives. Let's take a look at what it takes for a famous person to reveal their real feelings. When those we hold in high esteem have a breakdown, how should we respond? Persist until the very end, for the tale is altered by Kelly's final statement that day. First things first. Looking back at the collaboration of Ripa and Mark Consuelos helps us understand the gravity of that moment and how it impacted so many. They first crossed paths in 1995 while filming All My Children, and their chemistry was palpable in every setting. A real, grounded, loving, and, yes, troubled marriage, theirs has become one of the rare success stories in Hollywood throughout the years. Together, they have created a whole life, having 3 children, working together, making public appearances, and sharing intimate moments. Their constant presence on television, in interviews, and in our social media feeds brought us closer to them as people. Kelly finds joy in Mark's comedic timing. Kelly can always count on Mark to be there for her. In the eyes of many, their dynamic represents the stability of a long-term alliance. Because of this intimate familiarity, the breakage of that idealized picture hit close to home. We were taken aback by that crack. However, behind that radiant front lay untold tales, concealed sorrows, and whispered anxieties that were on the verge of being exposed. People get tense when they watch live TV. The timing of an unexpected event is always a mystery. Fans who were paying close attention in the days preceding Kelly's disclosure saw little shifts, hesitance, averting her gaze from the camera, and unusual pauses in her normally flowing words. Rumor has it that producers were apprehensive behind the scenes. Parts that ordinarily flowed well felt artificial. Although Kelly's usual banter was lighter, her occasional looks were heavy. Interviews that were supposed to take place that week were subtly changed or canceled. Mark, too, was less noticeable while he was in the spotlight. Even if these changes were small, a longer pause, an unexpected break, they meant a lot to a couple whose every move is scrutinized. It magnifies every shift. With that, everything was set in motion. There was an impending event. The level of intimacy, however, was unexpected. Things appeared to have changed the morning she spoke. As if on edge, the studio waited. All eyes were on the screen. Kelly welcomed the audience with her trademark smile and sparkling eyes as the event began. Something, however, was trembling just below the surface. She asked for a moment to herself after a few parts, paused, and then started talking again. Initially, her voice cracked, but eventually, it remained unbroken. For years, she had kept a secret from everyone. An intimate confession, a declaration of grief, an admission of guilt, or perhaps a facet of her soul that she had never before shared. While she spoke, the room became darker and heavier, and Mark sat next to her, listening with tears welling up in his eyes. It was as if the room held its breath for Kelly to complete or nearly finish that the tears started to flow. His wife's pain and the exposure of their shared life moved millions of people to tears. After that morning, watching TV was just a chore. Then it happened. It turned out to be proof. To get down to brass tacks, what did Kelly actually disclose? Perhaps since she was a little girl or a young adult, she had concealed a deep-seated dread from the world around her. There were times when she felt guilty, ashamed, and unhappy, and she spoke about those times. Things she would never have guessed she would publicly discuss. Whether it was a loss, a period of uncertainty, or an emotional scar, she detailed the particular confession and how it plagued her. She went into detail about how she had buried it, dealt with it, and even questioned whether she was deserving of healing. She opened up about how that secret had shaped her self-perception, relationships, and identity. As if naming it to Mark and the audience would liberate her, she continued by saying it, because they reminded us that even the strong people in our lives can be harboring great suffering inside. Those words, so delicate yet so brave, sent shockwaves beyond the studio. There was genuine emotion behind Mark's tears. I could feel it. His suffering became ours at that same moment. Pain. Just picture yourself sitting next to a long-lost loved one and hearing a secret revelation. He generally smiles and keeps his cool in photo ops. But now his face is all scrunched up. He wasn't the guy who used to joke about morning trivia. In real time, this husband witnessed his wife crumble. It wasn't for a simple sad narrative that Mark's eyes welled up with tears. Tears welled up in their eyes as they recognized familiar faces, recalled past experiences, and felt the powerlessness that accompanies witnessing the person you care about most shed tears over an insurmountable sorrow. After humming along with the show, the studio audience went silent in shock. A pin could be dropped in silence. Even though they were accustomed to the high-pressure environment of live television, the producers in charge allegedly went completely paralyzed. The ad break button remained depressed. This part should not have been shortened. It was a raw, unvarnished expression of the universal truth. What then was the key? How could the most unwavering pair on television be brought to their knees by the most devastating confession? Contrary to what many tabloids had reported, the story had nothing to do with adultery or a covert scandal. Rather than referring to an individual, the presence that had shaped her family for almost 20 years was the object of the loss, shame, and grief she expressed. Ripa broke down in tears as she said that they had to make the heartbreaking decision to say goodbye to their 17-year-old dog, Tui, the night before. Some may find this to be an extremely minor matter. A canine. This emotionally devastating occurrence was triggered by that. However, as Kelly continued to speak, the millions of viewers realized this was no ordinary dog. According to Kelly, this was her fourth kid. The depth of Kelly's sadness and a particular devastating remorse were the sensitive secrets she disclosed. Mark started the segment with a deep voice and red eyes. Among the most difficult things we've had to do as a married pair, he told the audience, was making this decision after enduring a bad day. In an effort to protect his wife, he was at that same time doing the heavy lifting, as he would later describe it. The mask Kelly had worn fell off as he recounted the story of how the dog, Chewy, had grown up alongside Michael, Lola, and Waken, thanks to Kelly's adoption of the dog on the show. With trembling shoulders and a face flushed with tears, she looked up from burying her face in her hands. Addressing the quiet audience, she said, "I'm really sorry." Her voice cracked. "I believed I had everything answered. I am sorry. I had assumed I had everything figured out. I had hoped for a different outcome." The confession that was hinted at in the story's start was further elaborated upon by her. In the end, it was the regret and shame of a pet owner. Everything was questioned by her, asking with the kind of honest uncertainty that every pet owner knows all too well. She wondered if she had been kind enough to her puppy. "I was attempting to raise a family of my own." Mark was deeply affected by a very specific detail, her last time with Chewy. Kelly compared her dog to a cat in that she was extremely protective of her face. According to Kelly, she was really worried about us kissing her face. That dog was not her. Afterwards, the studio was moved to tears by the discovery. Kelly replied with a shaky voice that she kissed her face 1,000 times after she died away last night. "She kissed my nose. Before now, I had never kissed her nose." Whispering, she even managed to inject a little humor into her anguish. "Was wonderful to have it, even though I know she was incredibly angry about it." Mark sobbed for his wife's suffering, the impending doom of that instant, and the passing of their loyal friend, who had been at their side through thick and thin. Their offspring went their separate ways, attending universities far apart. Chewy remained home alone. In an emotional and jaw-dropping moment on live television, Ripa has stunned audiences by exposing a deeply personal secret during a candid conversation with her husband, Mark Consuelos, on their morning talk show. The couple, who are known for their lighthearted banter, took a serious turn when Kelly opened up about a secret she had kept for years, one that sent shockwaves through viewers and even left Mark in tears. It all began during a lighthearted segment when Kelly, known for her bubbly and outgoing personality, became unexpectedly vulnerable. With Mark by her side, she shared an intimate moment from her past, revealing a deeply personal struggle that had affected her for years. The revelation was so raw and emotional that Mark, typically composed and charismatic, couldn't hold back his tears. As Kelly spoke about the challenge she faced, Mark's emotions were palpable. His tears were a mixture of surprise, disbelief, and overwhelming love for his wife. It was clear that he had no idea about the depth of Kelly's secret, and his emotional reaction resonated with viewers. For the first time in a long time, the couple showed the world a side of their relationship that was far beyond the usual TV banter. The moment quickly went viral, with fans praising Kelly for her bravery in sharing such a personal part of her life. The shocking reveal not only deepened the bond between Kelly and Mark but also reminded viewers of the power of vulnerability and emotional openness. This unforgettable moment is bound to remain one of the most talked about events in morning TV history.